I, 35F, grew up as the middle child in a family of 3 siblings in a small town. My relationship with my family has always been complicated, but recent events have made things even more difficult. I need advice on how to handle this situation that's becoming increasingly toxic. Let me start with some background. My older brother, 40M, has always been the golden child in our family. He works at a local car dealership and takes great pride in being what our parents consider a proper adult. He's married with 2 sports-obsessed sons, and his wife, 38F, is this quiet, subdued person who barely speaks up at family gatherings. My younger sister, 30F, got married at 24 and now has 3 kids. She learned early on how to navigate our parents' expectations and avoid their criticism. Growing up, I was always the sensitive one, the child who cried easily and never quite met our parents' standards. My father, who's about to retire, has always been emotionally detached but committed to maintaining appearances. My mother, a traditional homemaker, dedicated her life to the family, but her rigid upbringing often cast a shadow over our household. I struggled academically, barely maintaining a 2.5 GPA through high school. College was even worse. I dropped out during my second year after a particularly rough first year. My family never lets me forget this failure. They bring it up at every opportunity, usually in the context of how successful my brother is in comparison. After college, I found work at a gaming and comic book store. My family saw this as just another disappointment, but it was there that I met someone who shared my passion for technology. Together, we started an IT support company that grew rapidly. 7 years ago, we sold it to a larger corporation for a substantial sum. Currently, I work as the CTO of a promising startup, and my net worth is in the 7 figures. Here's the thing, despite my financial success, I live simply. I drive a 15-year-old Saturn and live in a modest 2-bedroom house in a nice neighborhood with second-hand furniture. I've been battling alcoholism, something my family dismisses as just another fantasy of my dramatic mind. I see a therapist regularly and focus on my work, though my family assumes my single life means I have nothing else to do. The most challenging part of my week is our mandatory Sunday family dinners. Every week, I drive 90 minutes each way to sit through what feels like an endless session of criticism and unwanted advice. My brother takes it upon himself to mentor me, though his guidance feels more like torture, a chance for him to brag about his house, his wife, and his children while implying that I'm somehow inferior for not following the same path. If I miss a dinner, I face their wrath the following week. They imply, without directly saying it, that I'm ungrateful. Any success I might have is minimized or dismissed entirely. Until recently, everyone still thought I worked at that old game store. I never bothered to correct them because I knew any achievement of mine would be diminished or turned into a source of criticism. During these dinners, I have to force compliments about my brother's latest successes while enduring his patronizing advice about how to become a proper adult. The irony is that while he lectures me about financial responsibility, I've managed to build substantial wealth through hard work and smart decisions. Yet I sit there silently, nodding along as he explains basic concepts about money management that I mastered years ago. My parents contribute to this dynamic by constantly praising my brother's stability and responsibility while treating my life choices as temporary phases that I'll eventually grow out of. They genuinely believe that working in technology is just a step above my old retail job, not understanding that I'm now in a leadership position at a successful company. I've maintained this facade partly because I value my privacy and partly because I've seen how money changes people's attitudes. The few friends who know about my success have stayed true, but I've watched others change their behavior completely once they learned about my financial situation. I didn't want my family dynamics to change just because of money, though, as it turns out, they were going to change anyway, just not in a way I could have anticipated. Recently, I've been seeing someone from work. Unlike my family, she understands and supports my choices. She doesn't judge me for my past struggles with alcohol or my decision to live below my means. When I'm with her, I feel accepted for who I am, not constantly measured against someone else's standards. The contrast between how I feel around her and how I feel during these family dinners has become increasingly stark. Every Sunday, as I drive those 90 minutes to my parents' house, I question why I keep subjecting myself to this treatment. The answer, I suppose, lies in that complicated web of family obligations and the lingering hope that somehow, someday, they might see me for who I really am. But last month, everything changed in a way I never expected. My carefully maintained separation between my family life and my professional success was about to collapse, leading to a series of events that would force me to confront years of family dynamics and make some difficult decisions about my future. I know things are about to change dramatically, and I'm not sure if I'm ready for what's coming. Update 1. It's been a month since my last post, and things have escalated beyond anything I could have imagined. The careful balance I maintained between my family life and professional success has completely shattered, leading to revelations that have turned my entire family dynamic upside down. Last month, my brother apparently hired a private investigator to do a background check on me. I'm still not sure what prompted this. Perhaps it was suspicion about my lifestyle choices or just his general need to maintain control. Whatever his reasons, this decision completely backfired on him. The investigator uncovered my actual financial situation, my role as CTO, my net worth, my investments, and other personal information I had kept private. When this information reached my family, their reaction was immediate and dramatic. Suddenly, their typical contempt transformed into an unsettling kind of admiration. The same people who had dismissed my life choices for years were now treating me like the favored child. The most jarring change was in my brother's behavior. During the next family dinner, he awkwardly tried to position himself as my equal, making up elaborate stories about his career achievements. The way he stumbled over his words while trying to impress me was both sad and infuriating, especially given how he had treated me all these years. But here's where things took an unexpected turn. Disturbed by this sudden change in dynamics, I decided to hire the same investigation firm to look into my brother's affairs. What they uncovered was shocking. He was drowning in debt, living far beyond his means, and had a history of financial improprieties at the dealership where he worked. Before I could decide what to do with this information, everything exploded on its own. My brother was arrested for financial fraud. The local news covered the story, revealing that he had been falsifying financial records and embezzling money from the dealership for years. His carefully constructed image of success and stability crumbled overnight. My parents were devastated. The golden child they had held up as an example for years was now facing serious criminal charges. Their reaction, however, wasn't to reflect on their years of favoritism. Instead, they immediately turned to me for help, expecting that I would use my resources to fix the situation. During all of this chaos, I found unexpected support from my colleague at work. She stood by me, offering emotional support and helping me maintain perspective as my family's drama unfolded. Our relationship deepened during this period, and I started to realize that what we had was something special. Last week, during a quiet evening at home, I found myself looking at engagement rings online. The contrast between the warmth and acceptance I feel with her and the toxicity of my family situation has made me realize what truly matters in life. I've been thinking about proposing, creating a new family built on love and mutual respect rather than manipulation and control. However, my family's reaction to my brother's arrest has made me wary. They've started showing up at my house unannounced, calling constantly with demands for financial assistance, and trying to guilt me into helping family in their time of need. They seem to have conveniently forgotten their years of criticism and emotional abuse. My brother, from jail, has been sending messages through his wife, alternating between threats and pleas for help. The same person who spent years looking down on me now expects me to bail him out of the consequences of his actions. The irony would be amusing if it weren't so painful. I'm planning to propose to my girlfriend next week. I've found a beautiful ring and planned a romantic evening at our favorite spot overlooking the city. But part of me worries that my family will find a way to ruin this too. They've already tried reaching out to her through social media, though though thankfully she has ignored their messages. I need advice on how to protect my relationship from my family's interference. Should I take legal action to keep them at a distance? How do I handle their constant demands for financial assistance? Update 2. It's been 2 months since my last update, and I need to share the conclusion of this difficult chapter in my life. The situation with my family has reached its final resolution, though not without significant emotional and legal turmoil. Shortly after my last post, my family's interference in my life reached a breaking point. They discovered I was planning to propose and took desperate measures to maintain control. They contacted my now fiancé directly, creating an elaborate web of lies about me. They portrayed me as a manipulative person who had always taken advantage of family goodwill, warning her that marrying me would be the biggest mistake of her life. Their actions set my blood boiling. It was one thing to manipulate and criticize me, but attempting to sabotage my happiness and future crossed a line. After discussing the situation with my fiancé, we decided to take legal action. I contacted my attorney and began the process of filing for harassment charges and restraining orders. The evidence compilation was surreal: logging calls, saving messages, documenting every attempt they made to interfere in our lives. The police officers I dealt with were understanding and took my concerns seriously. As we proceeded with the legal process, I experienced a range of emotions: anger at my family, grief over what could have been, and relief that I was finally standing up for myself. The court proceedings were intense. My family tried to paint themselves as concerned relatives who only wanted to protect me from making poor life choices. They brought up my past struggles with alcohol, twisted stories from my childhood, and even tried to suggest that my success was somehow illegitimate. My brother, appearing in court in his prison jumpsuit, lost his composure entirely and started making up wild accusations about my business dealings. That's when I presented the financial investigation results, exposing not just my brother's crimes but the extent of my family's knowledge and complicity in his fraudulent activities. The evidence was overwhelming, and the judge's decision was clear. The restraining orders were granted, and my family's attempts to interfere with my life were legally barred. My brother's reaction to the court's decision was explosive. He began shouting in the courtroom, making threats about finding ways to force me to share my wealth. His behavior only served to reinforce the judge's decision. The contrast between his current state and his former position as the family's golden child was stark and tragic. The aftermath of the legal battle brought more revelations. My brother received a significant prison sentence for his financial crimes. His facade of success had completely crumbled, revealing years of deception and fraud. Until the end, he refused to acknowledge his responsibility, instead trying to blame others for his downfall. His response to the sentencing was to make more threats and continue his self-justification, showing no remorse or understanding of the consequences of his actions. My parents' reaction to all of this has been telling. Rather than accepting their role in enabling my brother's behavior or acknowledging their years of unfair treatment toward me, they've retreated into a narrative of victimhood. They still attempt to contact me through various means, acting as if nothing has happened, trying to engage in small talk that feels like a poorly performed play where they've forgotten their lines. The most recent development came last week when they attempted to guilt-trip me about family obligations. They reached out through a distant relative, emphasizing that family should help family and that I owed it to my brother to help him get back on his feet. The speed with which they tried to shift the guilt for my brother's failings onto my shoulders was astounding. Throughout this ordeal, my relationship with my fiancé has grown stronger. Our wedding plans are moving forward, focused on creating a celebration that includes only those who truly support and love us. The contrast between the family I was born into and the family we're creating together couldn't be more apparent. I've implemented strong asset protection measures with my lawyer's help, ensuring my family can't benefit from my success through legal action. I've changed my phone number and strengthened all privacy settings. Although these actions bring some relief, I can't deny the undercurrent of grief. Even with family members who have been this toxic, cutting ties completely is difficult. My brother's social and financial ruin is now complete. His prison sentence has been confirmed, his reputation in our small town is destroyed, and he faces significant financial restitution requirements upon release. Even now, he shows no sign of remorse or desire to make amends, continuing to justify his actions and blame others for his situation. Looking back, I can see how much I've grown through this experience. I'm no longer the insecure person seeking validation from family members who were incapable of providing it. I'm building a life filled with genuine love and support, surrounded by people who value me for who I am, not what I can provide. Moving forward, my focus is on my upcoming wedding and building a future with my fiancé. We're planning to move to a new city for a fresh start, away from the shadows of my family's influence. Our new home will be a place of peace and healing, where we can build the kind of family we both deserve. The irony isn't lost on me that my brother's attempt to expose my success led to his own downfall. But I take no pleasure in his fate, it's simply the natural consequence of his actions. His inability to accept responsibility or show any remorse even after everything that's happened confirms that maintaining distance is the right decision. Thank you to everyone who provided support and advice throughout this journey. Setting boundaries and protecting yourself from toxic family members is difficult but sometimes necessary for your own well-being.